November 14th, 1943. 0420 hours. North Atlantic, 300 miles west of Ireland. Wind howls across the gray-black swells, cutting through wool coats and wet gloves. The ocean is a single sheet of iron, broken only by the low silhouette of U-boat U-526 drifting at periscope depth. Inside the control room, red lamps flicker against sweating steel. The boat rises, just enough. A hiss of compressed air. The conning tower breaks the surface. Oberleutnant Erich Voss climbs the ladder first, pushing through the hatch into the freezing nothingness. The wind hits him like a slap. Salt spray lashes his face. He wipes his eyes and looks around, scanning the horizon the way he has done dozens of times before. Nothing. Just darkness, moonlight smothered by cloud, and the endless Atlantic. The same Atlantic the Kriegsmarine still calls the Sanctuary. A place where, according to every rumor passed across the pens at Brest, the Americans' little baby flattops can't reach. Behind him, boots clang on the steel ladder as Matrosengefreiter Lehmann joins him, cupping a match against the wind to light a cigarette. Carrier planes? Lehmann scoffs, smoke torn from his lips before he can inhale. They're barely ships, more like floating barns. Voss offers the faintest smirk. They've all heard the stories. Tiny escort carriers with half the aircraft capacity of a fleet carrier. Slow as merchant vessels, lightly armored. Easy prey, easy to avoid, nothing to fear. U-boat crews joked that the Americans built them from leftover scrap and desperation. For a moment, Voss almost believes it, but something nags him deep in the gut. The sea feels wrong tonight. He scans again, sweeping binoculars across the horizon. The freezing metal stings his fingers. Behind him, the diesel fumes rise as engineers prepare to recharge the batteries. Still nothing. Below decks, the radio operator listens to static, thick as sand. A faint hiss, a pop, then silence. He tightens the headset. The rhythmic vibration of the diesel engines crawls through the hull like a heartbeat. U-526 turns slowly onto a new course, northwest, an escort route where convoys often appear. They'll dive again before sunrise. Or so they think. 0441 hours. A sound cuts through the wind. Faint at first, almost imagined. Voss freezes. He lifts his chin, listening again. A low, distant hum. Mechanical, rhythmic, growing. Lehmann frowns. "Is that?" Voss doesn't answer. His breath fogs as he strains to catch it. The ocean has a way of playing tricks, blending wind with swell, hiding warnings in plain noise. But this? No, this is different. He lowers the binoculars, eyes narrowing toward the south. The hum rises, steady, insistent, unmistakable. A radial engine. But how? No fleet carriers this far out. No RAF patrols scheduled in this sector. Their charts show nothing. Then the horizon flickers. A single dark shape appears against the thinning. Clouds. Small, fast, wings sharp as a talon. A Grumman TBF Avenger. For half a second, Voss simply stares. This should be impossible. No carrier group can reach this deep. Not in November. Not in these seas. Not with aircraft capable of hunting submarines before they can even crash dive. Yet the silhouette grows larger, engine roar tearing the morning apart. Lehman's cigarette drops onto the deck. "Alarm!" Voss shouts, voice cracking with adrenaline. The bridge erupts in motion. Men scramble for the hatch. Boots slide on frost-slick steel. Below, sailors hear the call and surge into practiced chaos. Valves spinning, ballast tanks flooding, everything aboard quivering with urgency. The Avenger drops lower. Its searchlight snaps on, a white beam slashing across the swells directly toward U-526. They've been seen. Voss grips the railing as the boat tilts forward. He hears the Avenger's wings creak under the wind, hears the metallic clank of depth charges armed for release. He had laughed at escort carriers. They all had. No one is laughing now. Because if an Avenger is here, then somewhere beyond the curtain of dawn, an escort carrier is here too. Close enough to launch, close enough to hunt, close enough to drag the U-boat sanctuary into the grave. The hatch slams shut. U-526 begins its desperate dive. But the ocean is no longer their sanctuary. It has become a trap, and the Americans are already inside it. Water crashes over the conning tower as U-526 noses downward. Inside the control room, the red lighting trembles with every impact. Steel groans. Men grip handrails, jaws clenched, breath tight. "Depth 40 meters, passing 50!" the plainsman shouts. The Avenger's engine roars overhead, a vibrating growl that cuts straight through the hull. Every man on board hears it, feels it, counts the seconds. Voss forces himself to stay steady. His hair drips meltwater down his collar. His gloves shake as he braces against the bulkhead. "Sound room, report!" A tense pause. Only the faint hum of electric motors and the thud of boots on steel. Then, "Multiple screws above. One aircraft. No surface ships detected yet." Yet. That's the word no one says aloud again. Above the Atlantic, the Avenger banks hard to starboard, wingtip slicing through morning mist. Inside the cockpit, Lieutenant J.G. Jack Meredith, U.S. Navy, adjusts his throttle, eyes locked on the swirling white wake left by the suddenly diving U-boat. He taps the dashboard with 2 fingers, a nervous habit from flight school, then keys the radio. "Got one. Marking dive point now." Static. Then a calm voice replies from the distant mothership. "Copy. Vindicator 2. Ticonderoga has your mark. Repeat. We have your mark." On the escort carrier USS Ticonderoga, one of the little barn door ships U-boat crews mocked, the flight deck already hums with activity. Deck crew in faded jerseys wave signals. Engines cough to life. Another Avenger is wheeled into position. These carriers weren't supposed to dominate the ocean. They were supposed to protect convoys. Stay on the defensive. But 1943 changed everything. Now they hunt. Back aboard U-526, the air grows humid as they descend. Sweat beads on foreheads despite the freezing hull. The diesel stench lingers in every corner. "Level at 80 meters, calls the plainsman. Voss steadies himself and forces his voice low. "Ahead slow, rig for silent running." The order spreads through the boat like a whispered prayer. Every clank becomes deliberate, every movement calculated, every sound swallowed. The men know the procedure well. But this time, something feels different. This time, the enemy arrived where no one expected aircraft to fly. 0462 hours. A dull whump echoes through the hull. A depth charge. Too far to hurt them. Close enough to warn them. Voss turns toward the sound man. Distance? Maybe 400 meters. Dropped wide. Then they're testing. Voss wipes condensation from his brow. Finding our rhythm. The sound man swallows. Herr Cologne, aircraft shouldn't be able to coordinate like this. Not out here. I know, Voss mutters. He doesn't say the rest. If aircraft can, then escort carriers can. And if escort carriers can reach this distance, the sanctuary is dying. Up above, the Avenger circles back for a second pass. Meredith wipes his goggles with the back of a gloved hand. Mist clings to the glass, smearing the faint sunlight. His radio man leans forward. Pilot, I'm getting a faint echo from the FIDO operator on Ticonderoga. They're prepping air-dropped acoustic torpedoes. Meredith lets out a sharp breath. Good. This boat isn't getting away. He banks again, lining up over the expanding slick of oil where the U-boat dove. Down below, U-526 inches through blackness. The crew barely whispers. Boots tread softly. Tools are held still. Hearts pound loud enough to feel. Another whump. Closer this time. Rattles cups, pencils, and nerves. Men flinch instinctively before catching themselves. Silence is survival. Silence is everything. Voss grips the periscope well, steadying his breath. They're searching on pattern, he whispers. These pilots, whoever trained them, know exactly what they're doing. A younger sailor near the forward torpedo room murmurs the words no one wanted spoken. But escort carriers aren't supposed to reach us here. The boat vibrates again as a second pattern of depth charges rolls across the seafloor. This one is closer still. Much closer. Dust sifts down from cables overhead. A wrench rolls slowly across the deck. A cold realization spreads through the control room. The Americans aren't guessing. They're tracking. Above the waves, Lieutenant Meredith watches the explosion plumes bloom across the surface. Dark spouts, flashes of gray, circles, rippling outward. He doesn't smile. He doesn't celebrate. He simply mutters to himself. Quiet. Focused. Come on, you bastard. Surface or bleed. On U-526, the lights flicker. A low metallic groan crawls through the hull as pressure climbs. Voss closes his eyes for half a second. There is no sanctuary now. Not from aircraft. Not from these new patrols. Not from the carriers they all laughed at. Something bumps the hull. Not a charge. Something smaller. Something mechanical. The sound man's eyes widen. Torpedo in the water. Voss doesn't breathe. The crew doesn't move. The boat doesn't dare make a sound. Because this isn't a depth charge. It's a hunter. And it's listening for them. Cold sweat trickles down the back of every man aboard U-526. The sound room is silent except for the faint hum in the headphones. A rhythmic, predatory warble that pulses like a heartbeat. Not theirs. It's the FIDO acoustic torpedo. Unlike depth charges, you couldn't outrun it. You couldn't hide beneath a thermal layer. You couldn't rely on luck and thick hull plating. FIDO listened. To propellers. To pumps. To the smallest mechanical vibration. And now it was following their sound. The sound man whispers, voice just above a breath. It's tracking. Starboard aft. Closing. Voss doesn't raise his voice. He barely moves at all. Cut all noise. All noise. Switches snap off in a cascade. Motors halt. Fans die. The boat becomes a steel coffin drifting in the dark. The only sounds left are creaking metal and the approaching torpedo. Every man hears it. Every man imagines its course. Thump, thump, thump. A hunting pulse sliding through the water. U-526 sinks deeper, but not because they want to, because without propulsion, gravity is taking them. Meters pass. 110, 120, 130. The pressure tightens the hull with a groan like bending bone. A young electrician grips a valve wheel so hard his knuckles turn white. He whispers a prayer in the old Saxon dialect he learned at his grandmother's table. Beside him, another sailor taps a rhythm with his thumb, nervous habit, barely audible, until a petty officer grasps his hand and squeezes hard to stop him. Noise kills. Above the Atlantic, Lieutenant Meredith circles again, engine steady, wings slicing through low cloud. He checks his watch. 8 hours. FIDO should have found something by now. He keys the radio. Vindicator 2 to Ticonderoga. Torpedo is active. No detonation yet. Holding pattern. The carrier responds, calm and unhurried. Roger. Vindicator 2. Maintain orbit. Second Avenger launching in 90 seconds. These small carriers, dismissed, mocked, underestimated, are coordinating like full strike groups now. And the U-boats, for the first time, are realizing it. U-526 drifts in silence. The torpedo's pulse fades for a moment, then returns, stronger. The sound man's voice breaks. It's doubling back, coming in again. 30 meters. No, 20. A sudden clang reverberates along the aft hull. Men jump, teeth clench, hands tighten around steel pipes and prayer tokens. Then, silence. 10 seconds. 15. 20. No hum. No pulse. No movement. Voss finally exhales. It lost us. A ripple of relief moves through the boat, silent but physical. Shoulders sag. Eyes close. A few men release slow, shaking breaths. Then the sound man tenses again. It's ascending. Voss's eyes snap open. What? It's going up. Climbing. A beat. Then he realizes. They all realize. The torpedo isn't retreating or malfunctioning. It's resurfacing because it didn't detect them. But the aircraft can drop another, and another, and another. The sanctuary isn't collapsing. It's already gone. Above, Meredith watches ripples spread across the sea. His radio man checks the scope and calls out. Contact lost. FIDO returned to depth neutral. We'll need another drop. Meredith nods grimly. We'll keep her pinned. At that moment, the second Avenger roars off Ticonderoga's deck, engine bellowing against the wind, carrying a second FIDO beneath its belly. The Escort carrier, the ship U-boat crews joked was barely worth torpedoing, now controls the entire battle space. Inside U-526, Voss knows the truth. They cannot outlast this. They cannot outrun this. They cannot hide indefinitely. And when they surface, the Avengers will see them. The carrier will find them. The convoy escorts will intercept. One by one, The crew realizes it too. Layman whispers, "How far out is this carrier? How can planes reach here?" No one answers. They've heard rumors in Lorient and Saint-Nazaire, stories of American shipyards producing escort carriers so quickly that sailors joked the hulls were still warm when they took to sea. Stories of entire groups of tiny carriers operating like wolves, working in teams, overlapping air coverage, patrolling thousands of miles deep into supposed safe zones. Stories they had laughed off until now. A deep creak pulses through the hull. The depth gauge needles trembles. The air feels thick. The silence turns suffocating. Voss finally speaks. "Bring us to 1 knot. Gentle turns. Bare minimum. No noise beyond that. We go deeper." The men react, trained muscle memory overriding fear. But deep in their bones, every one of them knows. If the next torpedo hears them, they won't survive the hit. The control room is a tomb of breath and tension as the boat descends again. 140 meters. 50. 60. More than one sailor closes his eyes, picturing home. A mother's handwriting. A childhood street. A promise made to someone waiting across a continent. And a war. But the Atlantic doesn't care. Neither do the carriers. Above the waves, the second Avenger levels out. Torpedo armed, engine steady, pilot scanning the water for even a hint of oil, bubbles, or movement. He tilts his head toward the sea and mutters, "You can run, Fritz, but not forever." Deep below, the men of U-526 feel the subtle rumble of that new aircraft arriving. Another hunter, another weapon, another reminder that the old rules are gone. The sanctuary is dead. The Atlantic is changing, and U-526 is trapped in the middle of it. 05:27 hours. U-526 hangs at 170 meters, deeper than the crew ever wanted to be. The hull groans under the pressure. A slow, bending complaint, like an old shipyard screw being twisted too far. Every man feels it in his teeth. Voss studies the depth gauge. Its needle quivers, trembling with the strain. He doesn't look away. "We hold here," he whispers. No one questions the order. They all know there's nowhere else to go. In the dim red light, steam from breath mingles with the thin mist drifting through the control room. Sweat beads on foreheads. Knuckles whiten around metal handrails. The boat smells of oil, fear, and enclosed humanity. Silence remains their only defense. But silence has a limit. Up above, the sea is empty. Flat, gray, innocent looking. Then the first Avenger dives through the cloud layer again, engine rumbling like distant thunder. Lieutenant Meredith peers down at the faint churn mark where U-526 vanished. He radios the second aircraft. "Let's grid pattern her. If she's drifting with minimal propulsion, she'll be down current." The second pilot responds, voice clipped and focused. "Roger, dropping sonobuoys." Small metal cylinders splash into the ocean, a new American method, scarcely known to U-boat crews. Each buoy begins listening, transmitting underwater echoes back to the aircraft circling above. Invisible ears. Dozens of them. The sanctuary isn't just gone. It's under surveillance. Inside U-526, the sound man stiffens suddenly. New noises. Multiple. Something in the water above us. Voss leans closer. Aircraft? No. Smaller. They're listening devices. The control room goes still. Everyone knows what that means. The Americans aren't just searching anymore. They're tracking with precision. Lehman mutters under his breath, "They've covered the surface like a net." The thought settles into every stomach like a stone. At 175 meters, another groan echoes through the hull. A loud one, a dangerous one. Sailors jerk their heads up. A rivet pops somewhere near the battery compartment. Just a ping, but enough to make a machinist's face go white. Pressure is physics, not enemy action. It's merciless. Voss clenches the steel edge of the plotting table. "We can't go deeper," he whispers. Then, louder, "Bring us up. 1 meter at a time." The helmsmen obey, hands steady. Despite trembling muscles, motors engage, barely. A soft hum, quiet as they can manage. But quiet doesn't mean silent. The sound man hears it instantly. "Torpedo is active again. It's picking up our movement." Voss closes his eyes for one fraction of a second. Every choice risks death. Stay deep. Hull collapse. Ascend. Acoustic tracking. Surface. Aircraft. No good options. Only the least fatal one. "Keep ascending, but gentle. Gentle," he orders. In the forward compartment, someone begins quietly sobbing, muffled in a sleeve. A petty officer places a hand on the man's shoulder. No words, just human contact in the dark. Above the Atlantic, Meredith sees it first. A faint swirl, barely visible. A ribbon of darker water, pushed upward by something rising below. He radios the second Avenger. "I think she's coming up." The reply is calm, almost too calm. "Arming FIDO. Diving for drop angle." Meredith banks left, lining up for another pass. Inside U-526, the ascent continues. 160 meters, 150, 145. Pressure eases, but fear deepens. The torpedo hum grows louder. Closer. The sound man whispers. It knows we're moving. It's following the screw vibration. 30 meters aft. Someone across the compartment mutters, "Scheisse!" Another says nothing at all, just grips a rosary so hard the beads creak. The tension becomes unbearable. Then, a metallic clatter forward. A loose ration tin, unsecured during the dive, slides from a storage rack and strikes the deck with a sharp clang. Every head snaps toward the noise. The sound man flinches. "It heard that. Torpedo accelerating. Closing fast." Panic shoots through the boat like electricity. Voss slams his fist on the chart table. "Blow ballast! Emergency maneuver! Left rudder 3 degrees! Make noise if we must! We have to move!" The boat lunges, groaning as compressed air floods tanks. Bubbles roar upward around the hull. Above, Meredith sees it instantly. A burst of churn. A pale patch of rising water. And then, metal surfacing. "Contact! I have the boat! She's surfacing! Fast!" He pushes the throttle forward. The aircraft's shadow sweeps over the sea as U-526's conning tower erupts through the surface, water pouring off its sides. Inside, chaos reigns as men are thrown against bulkheads by the sudden shift. They gasp at the rush of fresh air hissing through vents. Their ears pop. Someone cries out from a broken wrist, but the danger is only beginning. Because surfacing was never safety. It was exposure. And now they are exposed under a dawn sky filled with American aircraft. And somewhere beyond the horizon, The slow, deliberate shape of an escort carrier bringing more. Voss rushes up the ladder as the hatch opens. Cold air slams into him. He looks up, straight into the diving silhouette of the Avenger. Its bomb bay opens. The moment holds. Frozen. Then the cargo drops. Not one weapon. Two. A depth charge and another acoustic torpedo. There is no time to dive. No time to run. No time for anything but the awareness that the sanctuary is dead. The Atlantic is no longer theirs. The Avenger's payload hits the water with two heavy splashes, one loud and violent, one almost gentle. The depth charge sinks fast. The FIDO torpedo sinks deliberately. Both are lethal. Only one is inevitable. Voss slams the hatch shut above him as he dives back down the ladder. Men skid across the steel deck as U-526 tries the impossible. An emergency dive with damaged systems, exhausted batteries, and a torpedo already listening for them. Flood the tanks! Full down angle! Brace yourselves! The boat groans as it noses downward again, but it is sluggish. Too sluggish. Water pours over the bow as the conning tower disappears beneath the Atlantic once more. A thunderous crack rattles the hull as the depth charge detonates somewhere off the port quarter. Tools fall. A lamp bursts. A sailor slams into the bulkhead and crumples. The hull rings like a struck bell. "Damage report!" Voss cries. Voices echo through the compartments. "Minor flooding aft. Battery casing cracked. Trim shot. We're falling too steep." Then the worst voice. The sound man, white as chalk, eyes unfocused, headset trembling in his hands. "It's coming straight for us. Torpedo closing. 30 meters. 20. 15. A terrible silence follows. No one speaks. No one breathes. There is nothing left to say. Voss grips a handrail, knuckles stark in the dim red light. A single thought cuts through everything. We mocked these carriers. We mocked their aircraft. We thought we were safe. The torpedo's hum becomes a shriek. And then, impact. A dull, heavy punch to the aft hull. Not an explosive blast. Not a shattering detonation. FIDO doesn't explode on contact. It ruptures, cracks, breaks everything it touches. The stern buckles inward with a grinding scream. Pipes burst. Cold seawater sprays into the aft compartment in a violent jet. Men are thrown to the deck as the boat lurches violently to port. "Compartment flooding! Bulkhead cracking! We're losing her!" Voss steadies himself amid the chaos. The deck tilts sharply beneath his boots as water floods in. His officers look to him, some terrified, some resigned. All of them human, all of them far from home. He finally gives the order he never imagined speaking. "Surface, everyone topside, now." Some stare in shock, others nod immediately. He doesn't repeat himself. Men scramble up the ladder, boots slipping on wet steel, lungs burning as icy air rushes in. The hull rises, gasping like a wounded animal, pushing its way into the November dawn. 0536 hours. The ocean surface erupts as U-526 breaches, steep, uncontrolled, groaning under its own weight. The conning tower hatch bursts open, and sailors spill onto the icy deck, coughing, wiping seawater and oil from their eyes. They raise their hands. Some wave scraps of cloth. Some simply collapse, too exhausted to stand. Above them, the Avengers circles back, but Meredith doesn't strafe or fire. He just watches. He sees the damage. He sees the surrender. He sees the fear. He keys the radio. "Ticonderoga, this is Vindicator 2. U-boat has surfaced. Crew abandoning. Marking position." The reply is steady, respectful. "Roger. Vindicator 2. Hold observation. Destroyer escort inbound." Far on the horizon, a thin shape appears. A U.S. Navy Cannon-class destroyer escort, cutting fast across the waves, white spray flashing off its bow. The little carrier group, the one the U-boats laughed at, has won the day. On the deck of U-526, Voss stands near the forward rail, hands raised, chest heaving. He looks up at the circling aircraft, then across the ocean where the carrier must be. He whispers to no one, "They reached us. God help us. They reached us." His men gather beside him, shivering, defeated, alive for now. Lehman wipes his eyes, pretending it's just seawater. The wind cuts across the deck. The Atlantic's morning light settles over them. The mockery is gone. The disbelief is gone. Only the truth remains. The sanctuary is dead. The era of the U-boat hunters is over. A new era, the era of the escort carriers, has begun. And the ocean will never belong to the submarines again.